You've found just stories, simple, heartfelt moments from real lives, stories that remind us how connected we all are through love, loss, and hope. Get cozy. The stories are about to begin. I've had enough. How long can they humiliate me? Am I some soulless object they can order around? No, I'll just break. Sarah forcefully threw off her surgical cap, but it flew only a short distance before falling at her feet. The girl covered her face with her hands and sobbed hoarsely. Her friend Linda gently touched her shoulder, but Sarah sharply pulled away. Linda sighed heavily and went to the table to pour her friend some water. Calm down, Sarah. I'm sure everything will be sorted out. After all, you told the absolute truth. Dr. Eleanor Vance will figure it out, Linda tried to soothe her. Sarah lowered her hands, stopped crying, and said loudly, Figure it out? Linda, please, take off your rose-tinted glasses. When have you ever seen a situation resolved in a nurse's favor? You know our chief physician. She never admits she's wrong and always sides with the doctors. And she protects David more than anyone. She's ready to sweep away anyone who dares go against him. I suspect there's a reason for it, but that's none of my business. However, when I'm accused so vilely and punished too, I'm ready to tear them all apart. Linda glanced nervously at the door of the nurse's station and quickly went to close it more tightly. Then she said in a loud whisper, Sarah, quiet. If anyone hears, it'll reach the administration in no time. And I don't care. Let them report me. What else can they do? I got a reprimand. There's a note in my employment record. They took away my bonus and cut my salary for several months. And who knows what will happen next? If they decide to sue, no one will defend me. No, this is simply unbearable. I'm writing my resignation. Sarah covered her face with her hands again and growled hoarsely. Linda took a deep breath and went over to her. Sarah had always been emotional, but today she had just exploded. Linda tried to find words to comfort her friend. Oh, Sarah, stop. Don't say that. Who has it easy now? Do you think it's better somewhere else? It's the same everywhere, and the attitude is the same. You'll just be exchanging one problem for another. You've been here for 4 years, you're used to it. You know everyone, the job suits you. But if you leave, you'll be looking for a new place. And who knows, you might find something worse. Come on, drink some water. Calm down, dear. I have to run to surgery, or the surgeons will tear me apart. Pull yourself together. Linda hugged her friend and hurried out of the nurse's station. Sarah was left alone. In her hand, she held a glass of water. She looked at it and replayed the recent events in her mind. Sarah came to work at the hospital 4 years ago. None of the surgeons were eager to work with an inexperienced scrub nurse. Sarah was moved from place to place, but the girl quickly earned the doctor's trust. At first, they were wary of her, but she performed her duties flawlessly, carried herself confidently, and soon became the permanent nurse for one elderly surgeon. She was only assigned to surgeries with him. Only occasionally did she substitute for sick colleagues and work with other doctors. She worked with this surgeon for a little over 3 years until disaster struck. The elderly doctor had a stroke. He was saved, but he could no longer work and retired due to health reasons. For about 2 months, Sarah worked with whoever was available, and then a new surgeon was hired. This was the young Dr. David Miller, and Sarah became his permanent nurse. At first, the young doctor appealed to Sarah, and not just as a specialist. She felt a liking for him, but soon learned he was married. This upset her, but not greatly. The main thing was that he was a good doctor she could work comfortably with. However, Dr. David Miller turned out to be not so simple. He had a difficult personality. He could be cheerful, but he could also put people in their place when necessary. And Sarah quickly realized that he treated the middle medical staff somewhat rudely. And when she saw how he interacted with the orderlies, she understood that he didn't consider the junior staff to exist at all. Well, that happens, and quite often. Sarah was unlucky, but she quickly learned if she didn't contradict him and fulfilled all his requests, she wouldn't have to worry. There would be no conflicts with the doctor. At the same time, Sarah noticed that something was going on between the chief physician, Dr. Eleanor Vance, and David. She often called him into her office, and after that, David would come out looking pleased. No one knew anything for sure because everyone feared the chief physician's difficult temper. She couldn't stand hospital gossip, and if she found out they were talking about her, the rumor monger would be immediately fired. No one wanted to risk it with the administration. Sarah also kept silent. She was indifferent to what was happening between them. The only thing that bothered her was the age difference. Dr. David Miller was 15 years younger than Dr. Eleanor Vance. She was nearly 50. He was only 35. But everyone has different tastes. If there was something between them, it was only their business. And then this happened. Today, Dr. Eleanor Vance called her in and gave her a real dressing down. It turned out that a few days ago, they had operated on a man, and during the night, the patient became very ill. They started calling Dr. David Miller. He lived far away, and they would have to wait a long time. The patient had an emergency operation, and 3 gauze pads were removed from his abdominal cavity. Hearing this, Sarah went cold. She understood which patient they were talking about. It was after his surgery that Sarah hadn't counted the instruments and dressings. She was obligated to do this every time and was about to do it, but Dr. David Miller gave her an errand. He was in a hurry somewhere that day. "Sarah, quickly run to the nurse's station. They were supposed to bring me a suit from the dry cleaner there. I warned the nurse on duty. Quickly pick it up and bring it to the doctor's lounge. And while you're at it, make me some coffee. I love how you make it. You have some special proportions. It turns out so tasty. Hurry up." "But Dr. Miller, I haven't checked yet." Sarah tried to object, but she didn't get a chance. "Don't worry. I'll check everything myself. Everything will be fine. The surgery went well, easily and quickly. I'm sure we did everything perfectly. I'll count everything myself. Now go. Do what I told you." Sarah looked around helplessly. No one had heard their conversation because the surgeon had spoken quietly. Well, if he would check it himself, that was even better. And Sarah ran off to carry out the doctor's errand. Now Dr. Eleanor Vance was demanding an explanation for how the gauze pads ended up in the patient's abdomen. If Sarah hadn't checked, it was a gross violation. "I didn't check the dressings, but only because Dr. Miller said he would do it himself," Sarah whispered. Dr. Eleanor Vance frowned sternly. "What? You decided to be obliging too? What are you talking about? Is a doctor supposed to do your duties? What kind of new rules are these?" "But I'm telling the truth. Dr. Miller gave me an errand. I wanted to do my job, but he sent me to the nurse's station. He himself told me not to worry." Dr. Eleanor Vance pounded her fist on the table and stood up. "How dare you lie so brazenly? Wretch! What, did you decide to slander a respected surgeon? Why would you do that? Maybe you set your sights on him and he rejected you. Is that it? Are you in your right mind? Dr. Miller has a wife and he's a decent man. He wouldn't lie to his chosen one." "But I'm telling the truth, Dr. Vance," Sarah repeated. "And I'm telling you again, you're lying brazenly, you rude girl. Do you think I haven't talked to Dr. Miller? I already called him in this morning and he told me everything," the chief physician stated firmly. Sarah sank helplessly into a chair. She looked at the chief physician in confusion and whispered softly, "And what did he tell you?" Dr. Eleanor Vance smirked. "As if you don't know. He told the truth, that he asked you to finish quickly because he had to run to the nurse's station for his suit, and you offered to run yourself, and he could do your job for you, and then finish the surgery with another nurse. And he strictly told you that you must do your job first. Why did you do that? Why did you say you counted everything? Why did you set him up like that? You lied, you didn't finish the job, you left, and the doctor trusted you. Well, if you thought your stunt would go unpunished, you are mistaken. Now you'll get the full treatment." "But that's not how it was. Dr. Miller said he would do everything himself and sent me for the suit. I wanted to finish the job, but he wouldn't let me. Why did he set me up like this?" Dr. Eleanor Vance looked sternly at her subordinate. Then she said, "You know, I understood your motive. I can guess what this is about. You wanted to get revenge on the surgeon because he didn't succumb to your charms, and you decided to lie. But you didn't consider one thing. These were your duties, and you didn't perform them. And now you will answer for it. If the hospital is sued, you will be responsible, and you'll go to prison, or you'll pay compensation to the patient who almost died for the rest of your life. There. Do you understand? And for now, I will punish you properly. You lose your bonus for 6 months. You will only receive your base salary without allowances. I will make sure there is a note about your dishonesty in your employment record. If you decide to quit after such a note, no one will hire you anywhere else. Now go. I can't stand to look at you, you liar. Sarah couldn't say anything else in her defense. The chief physician didn't believe her anyway. She was completely on Dr. David Miller's side. She defended him very zealously and covered for him. Sarah sighed and finished her water. She had almost calmed down, but she didn't resign herself to her situation. No, that wouldn't happen. She wouldn't resign herself. She was going to do something else. She was going to get revenge on Dr. David Miller, and she had to act carefully so as not to scare off some of the participants in this drama. An operation was scheduled for the evening. Sarah prepared to meet Dr. David Miller. Seeing the nurse, he frowned. He expected her to avoid him or cause a scene, but Sarah calmly greeted him and then said, "There was some misunderstanding. I apologize for letting you down. I need to be more careful about my duties. I won't repeat the mistakes in the future." Dr. David Miller smiled arrogantly. He understood that Dr. Eleanor Vance had put the nurse in her place, and he had managed to avoid punishment. "Yes, well, try to make sure that doesn't happen again. The patient almost died because of you. Do you think this is a joke? No, my dear. This is serious. I told you not to leave until you finished, but you let me down. You said you checked everything and ran off. Beautiful. If I ran off like that without finishing a surgery?" Sarah could barely restrain herself from attacking the arrogant surgeon, but she gathered her will into a fist and remained silent. The surgery went quickly. Now Sarah performed her duties even more carefully. She knew she could be set up at any moment. After her shift, she went home. She didn't eat, didn't drink coffee. She just lay on the bed in the dark and fell asleep. Starting the next day, Sarah began to watch Dr. Eleanor Vance and Dr. David Miller closely. At every opportunity, she walked past the chief physician's office, listening. Dr. David Miller often went to see his boss, but Sarah didn't hear anything as she passed by. She needed to be sure that there was something between them, and then it was a simple matter: to deliver the necessary information to Dr. David Miller's wife. Sarah learned that the surgeon's wife was named Catherine, and she was the daughter of an influential man. If Sarah could prove that Dr. David Miller was cheating, he would be in big trouble. She strongly hoped for this, and also that Dr. Eleanor Vance would have problems too. Time passed, but all attempts to find out anything about the relationship between the chief physician and the surgeon were unsuccessful. Sarah began to lose patience and hope. Would she really not be able to get revenge on her abuser? Was this fair? She tried her best to be polite to him, but it became harder every day. The resentment and damage were too great. The patient who suffered due to Dr. David Miller's fault was discharged. He did not file a complaint against the hospital. At least Sarah was lucky in this. It was unknown how everything would have ended if the hospital had been sued. 2 months passed, and finally, luck smiled on Sarah. She managed to catch Dr. Eleanor Vance and Dr. David Miller. It was late evening, and only the night shifts remained at the hospital. Sarah should have been home long ago, but she had stayed late. She had a bad stomachache and had lain in the nurse's station for a long time after taking a pill. When she felt better, she got ready to go home. Heading towards the elevator, she remembered that she wanted to take her medical uniform home. She had badly stained her pants. Sighing, she turned back. She rounded the corner of the corridor and saw from a distance that the door to the chief physician's office was ajar. Sarah frowned and slowed her pace. She was glad she was wearing sneakers. She stopped a meter from the door. She couldn't see what was happening inside, but she could hear perfectly. Holding her breath, she listened. "But why do you make me so jealous?" she heard Dr. David Miller's voice. Dr. Eleanor Vance's playful laughter rang out. "My dear, what are you imagining?" And then Sarah realized this was her only chance. Carefully, she took out her phone, which was always on silent mode at work, and pressed the voice recorder button. "Why am I imagining? That young intern was in your office all day today. What, did you decide to trade me for a younger lover?" "Dr. Vance, I'm not from the streets, and you shouldn't play games with me," Dr. David Miller said. "Oh, Dr. Miller, what? Are you asserting your rights? Look what you've thought of. You have a wife, go order her around. Your Catherine probably puts up with it, but I won't. I'm not your lawful wife for you to order me around. I will be the one ordering you around because you are only here because of me. All it takes is a snap of my fingers and you'll be out of here," Dr. Eleanor Vance replied. David laughed. "Today's games suit me. You will be my strict mistress today." "Well, I'm ready to do everything you say. Just please, let's not talk about my wife anymore. You know Catherine is completely uninteresting to me." Dr. Eleanor Vance giggled. All right, I won't talk about your wife. Go, close the door so no one disturbs us." Sarah went cold. If one of them looked out now, she would be caught. Her whole plan would collapse, and she would have even more problems. But she was lucky. The door simply slammed shut. The click of the lock was heard. Sarah could breathe out. Oh God, she needed to leave immediately. She stopped the recording, pressing the phone to herself like a treasure. She carefully turned and walked slowly. The further she got, the faster she moved. Only when she was in the elevator did she smile, looking at her phone. How lucky she was. Incredible luck that she managed to overhear this conversation. Now she could get revenge. This would be quite enough. "Now you'll get what you deserve from me," she whispered to herself. A few days later, she managed to find out Dr. David Miller's wife's phone number. He often gave her his phone to charge, and Sarah took advantage of this. She wanted to send the recording to the surgeon's wife, but she didn't know how she would react. For several days, she pondered the best way to proceed. A week later, Sarah went on vacation, and on the first day, she decided to call David's wife personally. Perhaps the woman wouldn't answer an unknown number, but it was worth a try. Strangely, she answered immediately. "Hello. I'm sorry, we don't know each other, but I know your husband. I work with him. I really need to meet with you. Please, just don't tell him anything, otherwise I'll be fired, and I can't lose my job. I beg you, give me 10 minutes when we meet. I won't keep you long, but I really need to tell you something. It's very important." And again, luck smiled on Sarah. Catherine agreed to meet that same day in 2 hours. When Sarah arrived at the small cafe where Catherine was already waiting, she was flustered. This girl was her age, very pretty and sad. "Well, what did you want to tell me?" Catherine said after the greeting. Sarah, stumbling over her words, told Dr. David Miller's wife everything and played the recording. Catherine listened with a stony face through headphones. Her eyes didn't blink. She only turned very pale. Taking off the headphones, she looked intently at Sarah. "Why do you want this? Why are you doing this?" Sarah opened her mouth but didn't know what to say. And then she told the truth. She told how Dr. David Miller had set her up, how she had suffered, losing more than half of her earnings, and that she wanted to teach the vile surgeon a lesson. Catherine nodded, and then said thoughtfully, "My father said David was a scoundrel, but I didn't believe him. I believed David. Recently I started suspecting he was cheating on me. I had him watched, but he didn't go anywhere, only to work. And I never thought he was having an affair at work. Well, thank you. I think we have nothing more to talk about. Oh, by the way, I would like to compensate you for the damage caused to you because of my husband." Sarah waved her hands. No, please, I don't need anything." Catherine nodded. She forwarded the recording to her phone, returned Sarah's mobile, and stood up. "As you wish. Goodbye." Sarah sat in the cafe for another 10 minutes. She wondered how her interference in someone else's life would end. Had she done the right thing? A week later, upon returning from vacation, Sarah learned the latest shocking news. Dr. Eleanor Vance had been fired. She no longer worked at the hospital. They said she had moved to another city. Dr. David Miller also resigned, and his wife left him. She divorced him. No one knew the reason for what had happened. Everyone speculated what could have happened for two prestigious positions to become vacant at once. She knew that the reason for these changes was herself and her plan for revenge.